Gentlemen, let us talk 22 Jump Street. Welcome, viewers. Maxwell, Larry Sen. Let's talk plot. You don't go to a comedy for the plot, but again, just like Godzilla, we should talk about it. So, Larry, why don't you kick us off?
All right, well, the plot, it was interesting because I didn't really walk in thinking that much about the plot. But surprisingly enough, I actually think it was very clever how they integrated it. Just kind of how the sequence of events, it wasn't anything really new or groundbreaking or anything, but they moved along at a good pace.
See, I disagree. I actually think the biggest problem with the movie is that it did drag at spots. Like, it wasn't a common thing, but there were spots where I just felt like it needed to move on, and it felt like a longer movie than it actually was. Max, what do you think?
I did think the plot went along at a good pace, but I got this weird feeling that the filmmakers behind it were really, really nervous about kind of like trying to stay away from the original and yet still in capturing it.
Sure.
So a good portion of the second act is it kind of falls apart a bit, kind of devolves into just a bunch of jokes and set pieces, and sometimes that's okay, but other times it was too much.
Like you said, they were trying to get away from the original because this is a sequel, 22 Jump Street, and that's a big part of this film. This is a very aware that it's a sequel. So how do we all think it handled its sequelness, for the lack of a better term?
I actually think that was very entertaining. Probably one of the more entertaining parts of the movie, in my opinion, it was very self-aware, and I felt that it used a lot of that humor instead of just succumbing to the normal, obvious toilet humor and dumb humor that we've seen throughout a lot of comedies.
Sure, I think actually that was my favorite part of this movie, is just how focused on the fact it was a sequel. It was an integral part of the plot itself. It was built into the plot, and it wasn't all winking to the audience. It was actually kind of a thought-provoking kind of look at sequels in a weird, humorous way. But I think it was really smart and well done. That was my favorite part of the movie.
Okay, usually I love this kind of thing where a sequel is very like self-aware of its own existence and whatnot. And 22 Jump Street does this thing where it tries to address the comedy sequel problem that a lot of comedies face, from stuff like back in the day, like Ghostbusters 2 to Anchorman 2 and so forth. And I think maybe it spends a little bit too much time on trying to be the first one while also addressing the first one's existence. Just a little bit too much focused on that. Because sometimes it comes off as like, let's try and be the original, but also point out how we're trying to be the original. And just because you point something out that you're doing doesn't make it not bad when you're doing it.
I don't know. I mean, personally, I kind of see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I feel that it was refreshing to kind of see a nice focus on that humor.
Okay, well, 22, a lot of twos in there. Let's talk characters, starting with our two main leads. Really, all I have to say, I'm going to let you guys go. All I have to say is that Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill both killed it. They're very good with their little roles. They're really good at comedic timing. They have amazing chemistry.
Yeah, outstanding chemistry. Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, they are great. These are the buddy cops of the modern age of movie making.
I think the entire cast is very good. And the beauty of it is that they never... I mean, yeah, Ice Cube does steal the show, but really the focus is always Tatum and Hill. They always are the ones that the movie revolves around, and the main characters never overshadow them.
Honestly, for me, it's kind of like they're the one main character, those two. Because when they were apart, I wasn't as interested. Like, they work off each other so much better than either character on their own.
And that's the thing that they focus on in the plot, which I liked.
So now, the big thing, it's a comedy. How was the comedy? I thought it was really funny.
I thought it was really funny too.
Very hilarious.
It was funny.
Maybe, I think it... Okay, well, this is sort of... I don't know if this is controversial, but I think it does spend a little bit too much of the jokes on the whole partner situation. Like,
they weren't going for gay overtones. They were going... It was a romantic comedy. Like, they hit every note of a cliche romantic comedy, only it was just them as a pair of friends. I thought that was a really funny...
That's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. It's good. I thought the visual humor was awesome. Like, great, both visual and audible.
I think that Lord and Miller have really impressed me as far as their line of work as of now. And I think they really know, especially with their experiences in the past movies they've done, they kind of switched the humor over to a bit more genuine. I feel the humor was a little... I mean, the main reason I didn't like the first movie is because I felt it was a little too toilet humory, and the humor was a little too stupid. But I feel in this movie, a lot of the humor was a bit more genuine, and there was thought behind it, especially seeing as how a lot of humor was integrated into the plot, And as you guys said, the visual humor was also a little bit better timed in this film. I don't know. That's one of the main reasons I feel that this movie is superior to the original, is because the humor.
I actually think it's better as well.
Yeah, I just think the humor. Oh, there we go. Disagreement. The key to a video review.
So now let's move on. Additional comments, really quick. I'll just start because I can.
No, don't you dare.
Amazing end credits. Amazing end credits. No one else was going to bring that up. I'm glad
I was going to bring that up
it.
because it's like my favorite end credit sequence ever. It's totally about it addresses what the movie's all about, and it's also just really funny, and it's like a treat. It's like a delicious dessert. If I may say, I really liked some of the filmmaking styles they did, not just with visual humor, but just how certain things like were put together, like using like the technique of using split screen and whatnot, and like those kind of sensibilities are really like key to making a great comedy that's also a really good film. So yeah, I love the filmmaking in this film too.
Theses and scores. Larry, go ahead and go first.
As I mentioned earlier, 22 Jump Street manages to be vastly superior to its original, thanks to a much more self-aware style, its focus on character, and again, that motive that is pushing the movie forward to actually mean something. So I am going to give 22 Jump Street a solid 7 out of 10.
Though it's not entirely successful in all that it attempts, and it doesn't hold a candle to the original, 22 Jump Street is still a worthy sequel and just a hilarious romp. I just wish it wasn't so self-conscious. It gets a 7.5 out of 10.
Max just doesn't get this movie, so don't listen to him.
Doesn't hold a candle.
22 Jump Street is a sequel about sequels. That's what I like about it so much. It's surprisingly smart and surprisingly funny because it is a comedy sequel. Normally that doesn't happen. If it feels like I haven't had much to say in this review, it's because I was too busy laughing in the movie to like be analyzing. There aren't too many layers, and that's a bad thing for me who had to sit here and review, but it's definitely a good sign for the film. So I will be giving 22 Jump Street also a 7.5 out of 10, but for the right reasons. Not like Max. That's all wrong. So, thank you for joining us. That'll be the end of our review, 22 Jump Street. Our next review, I am so excited for, Transformers: Age of Extinction. Be there. Things are going to explode. It's going to be amazing. Until then, I'm Sean.
I'm Larry.
And I'm Max.
Who is wrong. See you next time. Thanks for watching. You can click on the little video right there to see our last video review, or you can click the words video review to see the whole playlist. Don't forget we're also on Facebook and Twitter, and you can get all things film culture at rulethirds.com.